The valet stops me at the entrance, his hand raised politely but firmly. "Name please." I give it to him, watching as his finger scrolls down the tablet screen, then scrolls again, his expression shifting from professional to uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, miss. You're not on the list." Through the glass doors, I can see my family inside the ballroom, laughing in their formal wear under crystal chandeliers. My sister Mallory spots me standing outside in the cold. Our eyes meet for one long second. Then she deliberately turns away, her champagne glass raised to her lips, conversation continuing like I'm not even there. I wasn't forgotten tonight. I was erased on purpose, carefully and completely. My chest tightens as I reach into my purse, fingers finding the invitation I helped design 3 months ago. Heavy cardstock, gold foil lettering, elegant script. I pull it out and stare at my name clearly printed on it. Taryn Blake. +1. The evidence of my inclusion, now meaningless at this locked door. My name is Taryn Blake, and I wasn't always the outsider looking in through glass doors. Growing up, I was the golden child for the first 18 years of my life. Perfect grades, perfect behavior, perfect path toward the future my parents had mapped out. Then I took a different path, chose art school instead of business school, design over finance. I was the first Blake child to step outside the family mold they had carefully constructed. They didn't like that decision at all. I didn't realize how much they resented my choice until they systematically made me invisible over the following years. The shift was gradual but deliberate. Conversations at dinner tables that excluded me. Family photos where I was positioned at the edge, easy to crop out later. Opinions dismissed before I finished speaking. By the time I was 25, I had become the family embarrassment they tolerated but never celebrated, the cautionary tale they used to keep younger cousins in line. When I confronted Mom about the missing invitation the next morning, her response was practiced and smooth. "Oh honey, it's not personal at all. Just a miscommunication with the venue and the guest list." Her voice carried that familiar tone of dismissal wrapped in false concern. But my Aunt Carla let the truth slip during a phone call later that week, her voice dropping to a whisper like she was sharing classified information. "Between you and me, Mallory took over all the planning this year. You know how she is about details and control." The implication was clear as glass. Mallory never makes mistakes with guest lists or seating charts or any detail involving social hierarchy. She makes calculated moves designed to send specific messages. My exclusion wasn't an oversight or technical error. It was a deliberate choice to erase me from the family narrative, to demonstrate exactly where I ranked in her carefully constructed world. And everyone had gone along with it without question or protest. The family brunch 2 weeks later was worse than the locked door had been. Dad sat across from me at the country club, his omelette getting cold while he delivered his verdict on my hurt feelings. "Taryn, sweetheart, you need to let this go. It's just one night, one event. Don't make it into something bigger than it is." He sipped his coffee, then added the sentence that made everything crystal clear. "Maybe if you were around more, participated more in family things, you'd be included more naturally." The guilt served with a smile, perfectly plated like the expensive food surrounding us. I was being blamed for my own exclusion, told that my absence from their lives was my fault rather than their choice. Mallory sat beside him, her expression sympathetic but her eyes cold with satisfaction. She had won this round completely, positioned me as the dramatic outsider making mountains from molehills. I left that brunch understanding exactly where I stood. Nowhere. 4 weeks after, I replayed every family interaction from the past 5 years, searching for the moment everything had shifted. Had I really done something so terrible that I deserved this treatment? Or had they slowly conditioned me to believe I wasn't worth a seat at their table, wasn't worthy of inclusion or respect? I sat on my apartment floor at 2 in the morning, scrolling through old photos and messages, looking for evidence of my failures. Then I realized something that changed everything. The voice in my head saying I wasn't good enough, wasn't family enough, wasn't successful enough in their eyes, that voice wasn't mine at all. It was theirs, planted carefully over years of subtle dismissals and quiet erasures. They had taught me to doubt myself, to question my worth, to accept their judgment as objective truth. But their voice wasn't truth. It was control. and I was done letting them control how I saw myself and my future. I almost didn't take the call when it came 3 weeks later. A referral from a friend's friend, someone I barely remembered meeting at a networking event months ago. The client wanted a branding consultation, nothing major, just a small project. One celebrity collaboration for their upcoming product launch. A mood board, a branding concept, some visual direction. I said yes mostly because I needed the distraction from family pain. The project consumed me for 2 weeks, every detail considered and reconsidered. When the celebrity posted the final branding on Instagram, everything exploded overnight. My inbox flooded with inquiries and consultation requests. The post had gone viral, shared thousands of times, my design aesthetic suddenly in demand. Major brands reached out. Influencers wanted collaborations. My small freelance operation couldn't handle the volume of interest. I stared at my computer screen, watching opportunity multiply faster than I could process. This was the beginning of something much bigger than revenge or validation. This was my actual future arriving ahead of schedule. The family found out about my viral success 2 months later when a national design magazine featured my work. 6 pages showcasing my projects, my process, my vision for modern branding. My photo on glossy paper, my name in bold print. Mallory texted within an hour of the magazine hitting newsstands. Cute article, smiley face with a smiley face that felt like a knife. My mom called that evening, her voice careful and measured. Well, don't get a big head about this, Taryn. It's just one article in one magazine. No congratulations offered. No pride expressed. Just immediate condescension designed to keep me small and manageable. My younger brother forwarded the article to the family group chat I had been removed from months ago. The responses I saw in screenshots were lukewarm at best. Nice for her. Good she's keeping busy. Interesting hobby she has. They couldn't celebrate my success because it threatened their narrative about my failure to launch. I was supposed to struggle, to eventually crawl back admitting they had been right about my choices. My thriving disrupted that script entirely. My younger brother graduated from business school that spring with the ceremony my parents had always dreamed about. Big celebration planned at an expensive venue, the golden child receiving his validation. I found out about the party from Facebook, scrolling through photos of family members I hadn't seen in months. Everyone gathered, smiling, toasting to his future. Aunts and uncles, cousins, family friends. Even distant relatives had been invited to witness this milestone. But not me. I called Dad from my apartment, my hands shaking slightly. I didn't know about the party, I said simply. His pause lasted 3 long seconds. Oh, Taryn. We just assumed you were busy with your little business and all those new clients. Didn't want to bother you. My little business. The phrase landed exactly as he intended. Despite the magazine feature, despite the viral success, despite the growing client list, he still saw my career as a hobby barely worth mentioning. I was busy, yes. But they had never asked. They had simply decided I didn't belong at another family celebration. I cried on my apartment floor that night, hardwood cold against my cheek, my body racked with sobs I had held back for months. But these tears were different from the ones I had shed after the locked door and the crossed-off guest list. I wasn't crying because they had left me out again, wasn't crying from hurt or rejection or the pain of being invisible. I was crying because I finally understood the truth with complete clarity. They need me small. They need me struggling and unsuccessful and dependent on their approval. My thriving, my independence, my success outside their prescribed path threatened the entire family hierarchy. And I wasn't going to be small anymore. Not for them, not for anyone. I stood up from that floor at midnight, washed my face in cold water, and made a decision. I would build something so big, so undeniable, that they would have to see me whether they wanted to or not. My success would be the billboard they couldn't avoid looking at. I registered the business name that same night, sitting at my laptop with determination burning through my exhaustion. Blake Studio. I bought the domain immediately, filed the LLC paperwork online, and started building a brand from absolute scratch. No social media announcements seeking validation. No posts looking for congratulations or support. Just quiet, strategic planning and execution. I designed my logo in 2 hours, refined it over the next week, created brand guidelines that reflected exactly who I was and who I wanted to become. My legacy would be louder than their dismissal could ever be. I would create something permanent and professional that existed entirely outside their world and their judgment. This wasn't about proving them wrong anymore, though that would be a satisfying side effect. This was about proving myself right. About building the life I wanted regardless of whether they ever acknowledged or celebrated it. Blake Studio launched officially 1 month later with a client roster that had tripled in size and continued growing daily. They did invite me to the summer family reunion, probably because too many people would have noticed my absence from that particular event. 3 days at a lakeside resort with extended family who asked uncomfortable questions. I showed up professionally dressed, smiled through awkward conversations, tried to enjoy what little connection remained. But Mallory made sure everyone understood my place in the hierarchy. When distant cousins asked what I did for work, she jumped in before I could answer. "Oh, Taryn's the artsy one in the family. She does like logos or something creative." Her tone was dismissive, reducing years of work to a casual hobby. I smiled tightly and said nothing, watching her perform for our audience. She had no idea I had just closed a deal with a luxury hotel chain, no idea my client list included names she would recognize. I was building an empire while she saw me as a hobbyist playing with colored pencils. The gap between their perception and my reality had become a canyon. Let them stay on their side, believing what they wanted. I was building something real on mine. My first 6-figure project came that fall, a complete rebrand for a high-profile tech startup preparing for their Series B funding round. I walked into the pitch meeting with a confidence I had never felt before, my portfolio precise and professional, my vision clear. The founders asked tough questions. I answered every one without hesitation, my expertise evident in every response. When they chose me over 3 larger agencies, the validation felt like oxygen after years underwater. The contract was signed within a week. I went home that evening, opened an expensive bottle of champagne I had been saving, and poured a glass in my empty apartment. No one to celebrate with, no family to call with the news, no partner to toast my success. And that's when I decided with absolute certainty, I would be my own family. I would celebrate myself, validate myself, support myself through every win and every setback. Their approval had become irrelevant because I had learned to approve of myself completely. Cousin Olivia's wedding the following spring pushed me past my breaking point into something new. The event was massive, held at the most iconic venue in the city, an Art Deco ballroom with marble floors and gold accents. Family flew in from 3 different states. Hotel blocks were reserved. A weekend celebration was planned. And I helped design the invitation suite, spending weeks perfecting the calligraphy and layout. Then the actual invitation arrived at my apartment. Ceremony only, not the reception. I called Olivia directly, trying to keep my voice steady. Limited seating at the reception, she explained, sounding genuinely apologetic. We had to make some tough cuts. But I saw the Instagram posts later showing the reception with plenty of empty seats, Mallory circulating with champagne and making toasts. She had made sure of my exclusion again, convinced Olivia it was necessary. I sat in my apartment holding that invitation, ceremony only, and something inside me crystallized into pure determination. They wanted to limit my seat at their table? Fine. I would build my own venue. The venue stayed with me for weeks after, that iconic downtown ballroom where I wasn't important enough for reception attendance. But what stayed with me more was the giant LED billboard directly across the street, impossible to miss from the ballroom's entrance. I had noticed it during the ceremony, advertisements cycling through for local businesses and upcoming events. The location was prime, the visibility perfect, the impact undeniable. I remembered thinking with absolute clarity, one day, I'll light that billboard up with my own name and my own success. The thought wasn't revenge exactly, though that element existed. It was more about creating a moment so visible, so undeniable, that they would have to see what they had dismissed and diminished. I started researching billboard advertising costs that same week. Started saving money specifically for this purpose. Started planning and waiting for the perfect moment to execute this vision. The seed was planted and growing steadily in the dark soil of my determination. The comment came during a family video call I had reluctantly joined, trying to maintain some thread of connection. Mallory was discussing holiday plans, her voice bright with artificial warmth. Then she looked directly at the camera, at me. "We're just different people, Taryn. You were always a little offbeat, a little outside what the rest of us are about." She laughed like this was an observation rather than an insult. "You'll always be the black sheep of this family. But that's okay. Every family needs one." The other faces on the screen nodded agreement or stayed carefully neutral. Nobody defended me. Nobody suggested that different didn't mean less. I smiled into my camera, my expression pleasant, while my hand reached for the mouse. "I need to go, client call starting soon," I said calmly. Then I ended the video chat and sat in silence. The black sheep. The label they had assigned me, the role they needed me to play. But black sheep was just another way of saying different. And different was exactly what I was building my success on. Let them have their conformity. I would have my authenticity and my empire. Over the next 8 months, I built something that exceeded even my own ambitious expectations. I hired staff, 3 talented designers who shared my vision and work ethic. We scaled services, offering complete brand transformations instead of just logo design. I started consulting for major corporations, flying to different cities for meetings, my expertise suddenly in high demand. My calendar was booked 6 months out, clients waiting patiently for availability. Some flew to my city just for initial consultations, treating my time as valuable and my input as essential. My work was being featured in design publications regularly now. Other designers were copying my aesthetic, which meant I had become influential enough to inspire imitation. Blake's Studio wasn't just my business anymore. It was a brand people recognized, a name associated with quality and innovation. I was building an empire while my family still saw me as the offbeat relative playing with art supplies. The disconnect would have been funny if it wasn't so revealing of their willful blindness. The article that changed everything dropped on a Tuesday morning in late summer. A major industry publication, the kind every designer reads religiously, listed me as one of the 10 designers redefining the luxury brand space. My full name in bold print. Taryn Blake. My photo professionally shot, my work showcased across multiple pages, my philosophy about design quoted and analyzed. The article went viral within the design community, shared thousands of times across social media platforms. My inbox exploded again. Job offers arrived from prestigious agencies. Speaking invitations piled up. My mother emailed within hours of publication, her message brief and pointed. "Interesting article about you. Are they exaggerating your impact a little? Seems like a lot of hype." No congratulations offered. No pride acknowledged. Just immediate skepticism designed to control my perception of my own success. But her doubt didn't land anymore. I had stopped needing her validation or approval. The industry had spoken. My peers had recognized my work. Her opinion had become background noise I could simply ignore while focusing on what actually mattered. I called the advertising company that owned the LED billboard across from the ballroom on a Thursday afternoon, my heart pounding with anticipation. Another Blake family wedding was scheduled for next month, a cousin's elaborate celebration at that same iconic venue. The date was public knowledge, posted across social media with countdowns and excitement. I explained what I wanted to the sales representative. One night only, the evening of the wedding. Prime time display from 5 to 11 p.m. The cost was substantial but manageable, an investment in a moment I had been planning for over a year. We discussed design specifications, upload timelines, technical requirements. I paid the deposit immediately, securing the date before I could second-guess myself. This wasn't petty revenge or desperate attention-seeking. This was a statement about surviving their erasure and thriving despite their dismissal. They had crossed my name off their lists. I was putting my name in lights where they couldn't look away. Designing the advertisement was personal and cathartic, every choice deliberate and meaningful. I kept the design simple and elegant, refusing to be loud or desperate or bitter. Black background with gold accents, my signature brand colors. My name in the center in clean, professional typography, Taryn Blake. Below it, the tagline I had crafted carefully, design your own legacy. No mention of family or exclusion. No obvious bitterness or anger. Just truth presented beautifully. The message was clear to anyone who understood the context. I wasn't defined by their guest lists or their opinions. I had designed my own path, built my own success, created my own legacy completely independent of their approval or inclusion. The billboard would go live at exactly 5 p.m. on the wedding day, impossible to miss as guests arrived at the ballroom entrance. I uploaded the final design 2 weeks early, triple-checking every specification. Then I waited, feeling something close to peace settle over me. The moment was coming. Ready or not, they would see me. The evening arrived with perfect weather, clear skies and mild temperature ideal for a formal wedding. I didn't attend the ceremony or reception, wasn't invited to either one obviously. But I had dinner reservations at a restaurant 3 blocks away, positioned perfectly. At exactly 5 p.m., I walked slowly toward the venue, my heels clicking on the sidewalk. Guests were arriving in evening wear, emerging from cars and gathering near the entrance. Then I looked up. My name shone above the street in brilliant light, gold letters on black background, impossible to miss or ignore. Taryn Blake. Design your own legacy. The billboard dominated the view, a spotlight over everything they had tried to dim and diminish. I watched from across the street as heads turned upward. Mallory exited a car, looked up, and froze completely. Her face went pale even from this distance. My dad blinked repeatedly like he couldn't process what he was seeing. Other family members pointed and whispered. No one could pretend anymore. No one could dismiss or diminish what I had built. My success was literally illuminated above their celebration. Mallory's message arrived 2 days later, carefully worded to seem genuine. Taryn, I saw your billboard downtown. Really impressive. You've really made something of yourself with your business. I'd love to catch up sometime soon, maybe grab coffee and hear about everything you're doing. The text carried forced enthusiasm, an attempt to rewrite our history. I read it 3 times, considering responses. Part of me wanted to accept, wanted to believe reconciliation was possible. But I remembered every exclusion, every dismissal, every moment of deliberate erasure. I remembered locked doors and crossed-off names and ceremony-only invitations. I didn't reply to her message. Not that day or the next or the week after. My silence said more than any thank you or acceptance ever could. She had made her choices about my value to the family. I had made mine about her value to my life. The billboard had been my final statement. I didn't need to add words to that clear message. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some distances are healthier maintained than closed. My mom's email came a week after Mallory's ignored text, the passive-aggressive apology I had been expecting. Taryn, I know things have been tense between us for a while now, but I want you to understand that we always loved you in our own way, even if we didn't always show it perfectly. Their own way had been erasure and dismissal. Their own way had been conditioning me to doubt myself. Their own way had been exclusion dressed up as protecting me from my own unrealistic dreams. I read the email twice, feeling nothing except tired recognition of the pattern. She was attempting to rewrite history now that my success was undeniable, trying to claim some credit for my resilience. I didn't write back with anger or acceptance. I simply forwarded the email to my therapist with the subject line, "More evidence for our session." Then I archived it and went back to work. They didn't deserve my emotional energy anymore. That energy was better spent building what I had started, growing the empire they had tried to prevent. The speaking invitation that arrived 3 months later felt like the universe confirming my path. A women's entrepreneurship summit wanted me as a keynote speaker, sharing my journey from freelancer to agency owner. The location made it perfect, my hometown, the city where my family still lived and operated. I accepted immediately, seeing the full circle poetry of the moment. The event sold out within a week of announcing speakers. The audience packed the auditorium, 300 women eager to learn about building businesses and overcoming obstacles. I stood on that stage in my hometown and told my truth about family doubt and self-belief, about being erased from guest lists and putting my name in lights, about choosing yourself when others won't choose you. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, women lined up to thank me for my honesty. 3 women from my family's church group were in that audience, taking detailed notes. They approached me cautiously. "We had no idea," one said softly. "We're sorry." I thanked them for coming. Some witnesses mattered. I hosted a private celebration 3 weeks after the summit, inviting the people who had actually supported my journey. My small team of designers who had believed in my vision. The clients who had become genuine friends and advocates. The college roommate who had never doubted me. The mentor who had guided me through early business challenges. We gathered in my newly expanded studio space, champagne flowing, laughter echoing off exposed brick walls. These were my chosen family, the people who saw my value before I had a billboard or magazine features. My project manager raised her glass for a toast. "You created a legacy out of pain," she said, her voice emotional. "You took their rejection and built something permanent and beautiful. You showed all of us what's possible when you refuse to stay small." We toasted to resilience, to chosen family, to building futures that honor who we actually are. That night felt more like family than any Blake reunion ever had. This was belonging I had earned and created, not belonging assigned by genetics and conditional on conformity. 3 months later, I walked past the venue again during an evening stroll through downtown. Another wedding was happening, the ballroom lit up with celebration. I wasn't invited to this one either. Didn't want to be. But I looked up at the billboard across the street, now showing an advertisement for a local car dealership. My moment had passed, the lights had moved on to other messages. But people still remembered. Clients still mentioned seeing my name illuminated that night. Strangers still stopped me at industry events to say they had witnessed it or heard the story. My statement had been made and absorbed. I whispered to myself standing on that sidewalk, words meant only for me, they crossed me off their guest lists and erased me from their celebrations. So I built my own stage, created my own spotlight, designed my own legacy without their permission or approval. The billboard was temporary, lit for one night. But what I had built was permanent. Blake's studio thrived. My reputation grew. My chosen family expanded. And I learned the most important truth: you don't need a seat at tables that don't value you. You build your own table. You light your own way. You design your own legacy. And you do it all without looking back for approval from people who never saw your worth. I walked home that night feeling free in a way I had never imagined possible. They had meant to break me by erasing me. Instead, they had freed me to become exactly who I was always meant to be. Unbothered. Successful. Illuminated by my own light. Finally, completely, undeniably myself.